Good evening, Dumelang Aye Ndumatekwane. Welcome to Bay Waves, a show for Africa by African youth. I'm your host, Happiness Ranto, and I'll be sailing the ship tonight. Before we get into the nitty-gritties, I just want to thank all the viewers and listeners at home for making this show what it is today. So for those who do not know, Bay Waves was created with the idea or the mission of identifying problems or challenges in Africa and find solutions to those problems. So we are not only going to document the solutions, but we are going to act on them. And I'm so excited because today we will be implementing on one of the solutions that we have identified. So during our research, we discovered that one of the problems or challenges in Africa is poverty. So we have everything, literally everything. We have agriculture, mines in the heart of Africa, yet we are still poor. And the reason for all of this is because of poor financial management. And today, guys, we have a financial guru who will be giving us education about finances. And I won't be sailing the ship alone. I have my amazing co-host, Judge of the Jungle. Judge, good evening.
Good evening, Happiness, and good evening to the viewers. And also, I just want to welcome um, our guru on the show. And yeah, I'm just pretty much excited about today's show. It's gonna be a good experience. We're gonna learn a lot. Yeah, thank you for having me today.
I'm also excited about it. You know, early January, we were having a conversation about resolutions. I just want to know from you, George, what are your top two New Year's resolutions? I don't know if you're still supposed to talk about them, but I'm just interested.
Well, with regards to me, I'm still a student, so my resolutions revolve around my academics. I just wanna, make sure that I up on my grades, and secondly, I just wanna learn more about I'm in the film and television production industry, so I just wanna engage more with people uh who are going to help me to prove myself in this industry. So yeah, those are my main focuses for this year. So yeah.
No. Okay. So one of my resolutions, which came top of the list, is to make money and save more money. So today I'm actually excited for this show because I'm gonna learn different ways to make money or save money, or actually have a healthy relationship with my finances. So to the
Yeah.
viewers at home, if you want to know more about savings, loan, investments, wills, trust funds, you name it all, please tune in. Do not forget to share this live airing with your friends, your family on WhatsApp and Facebook, because it's about to get lit. Like I told you earlier, we are having a financial guru in the house. Hey, good evening, Mr. Valoi.
Good evening, Happiness, and good evening to George as well. Good evening to our listeners and viewers out there. Yes, I believe it's a great evening. We're gonna explore some few ideas on how we can manage our finances. You are spot on, Happiness. It is one of those resolutions that we tend to ignore. And the reason that we ignore, it's for the same reason that we are here on the studio tonight to talk about finances and making finances becoming part of our lives. We can't make all resolutions out there, losing weight, this and that, and all of the other things, and we ignore the finances. The finances are the cornerstone of our lives. You miss on that one, you have messed up your life. So I believe we're gonna have a nice chat today, and let's encourage our viewers and listeners to pop in questions that we can be able to address in the session. Thank you very much.
Oh, I believe my host is having problems. Just to remind the listeners, we are tuned into Baywaves, and today we're gonna be talking about financial education, and we are focusing more in having to improve our financial knowledge because a lot of us we really don't have much foundation when it comes to finances, and I just wish that that was something that we were really taught, and so that we can really take it seriously when we get to grow up, because you know uh the thing is we there's a lot of people out there who have a lot of money, and yet because of they don't have financial knowledge, um a lot of money that they have, it just goes to waste. And I think today, as Happiness said, we have a financial guru. He will get to help us to, get to have to see, and just to get an overview of how we can really get to put our financials into a good use. So, Mr. Is Happiness,
I'm back.
Happiness, are you there?
I'm back.
Okay, welcome
I'm
back.
back. Thank you so much, George. I was experiencing some technical issues, but they are
Okay,
all sorted right now. Like you've said, a lot of people are rich, but they still
yeah,
fail because they cannot manage their finances. And it's the same thing that is happening in Africa. Africa is rich, like we are wealthy. We are wealthy in
yes,
minerals, we are wealthy in almost everything. The other countries just come here, buy them at a cheaper price, then sell them back to us, get 10 times the amount. That's why we are
yeah,
not going anywhere. Like that is a generational curse that our generation should break. And like I said, the financial guru in the house is going to be helping us break the chain. So I was looking at Mr. Baloi's profile on LinkedIn, and I'm like, you know what? There's no way I'm going to profile him because there's definitely a story on this thingy. The qualifications, hey, there are lots. Buka ifecho bathiwa that side. So I want to know, Mr. Baloi, when I was looking at your profile, I saw a lot of qualifications in finances, accounting, like it's just a lot. What really motivated you to go into that industry? I want to know your journey from when you matriculated to the very end.
Thank you, Happiness. It's quite vast indeed. Of course, you have raised it. I want us to spend more time in talking about finances than talking about myself. But just a snapshot, a brief about myself. I matriculated at Resinga High School in Giani. And immediately from there, I went to Durban Westville, where I got my first degree, which was a Bachelor of Commerce. And I had a reason for it. Since my early age, even at primary level, my desire was to run own business, and I thought that for one to be able to do that successfully, he needs to have skills. Hence, I chose to study commerce. So commerce was my first qualification, but I went on after that. Immediately after qualifying, I started my own business since that was the dream. But I didn't just start a business. I looked for a job and I couldn't find one. I thought BCom was a great qualification. I mean, 23, 25 years ago, one with a BCom was a reckoned person. But life shocked me. I couldn't get any employment at that time. Hence, I moved on to say, if I can't get a job, I will need to create a job for myself. So I created my own job. I started own business, ran that own business for a while. It was quite great, a big learning curve on it, and also to learn that it is not everything that we learn in theory that can easily be implemented in practicality. So you really need something beyond your qualification, which is skills and mentorship. So when I was running my business, we came to a war where we had to quit the business. Luckily enough, one of the things that one was looking for was to say, I have a qualification, I have skills. So I started doing some other things which were related to my qualification, doing business plan for community members, assisting here and there where one could in terms of marketing and so on. But the breakout or the breakthrough in my career was when sometime in early 2001, I got an advert which was put out by Old Mutual, where they were looking for investment advisors. That resonated with my spirit. You know, I thought, but this is one great thing that one should be able to do. Given the qualification that one has. After all, I'm surprised how people are investing and saving when me, myself, at that age, I've never heard anyone who was saying, I'm an investment advisor. I've never heard anyone saying that you can be advised on how best to invest. And that is the core of today's show. But, you know, with that, I applied. To cut the long story short, I got into Old Mutual and started doing work. And the what is that? The occupation was that of a financial advisor. So with that, I went on and started my career. I moved on to various institutions from there, and I continued loving the work that I was doing. I've been with various insurance companies and with the banks. But it was somewhere in 2006 where I realized that no, actually what I'm doing, it's actually moving gradually from what I thought I'm coming to do. Because now one was moving into management positions and the likes, moving away from clients, so to speak. Because now you are dealing with group of advisors and branches when I was in the bank and so on. So that is when I left the corporate world and established my own financial advisory practice. That was another 10 in my life. And from there, I started moving on and loved what I was doing. And I realized that, no, I need to upgrade my skills. So where I come from, it's a wealth of investment towards my skills to be able to serve my clients properly. Among other things, I moved on now on my own practice. I started studying further. One of the qualifications that I got was a postgraduate diploma in financial planning, which is one of the prestigious qualifications in financial planning. In fact, there's no better qualification than the postgraduate diploma in financial planning. But I didn't leave it at that. As one gets exposed to the academic side of our work and the skills that one acquired, I also did an advanced diploma in estate and trust administration. So among other things that now I added was to be able to assist my clients, not only in investing or not only in making sure that the risk side of their lives are covered, but I also added up administration of deceased estates. So we will take you through while you are alive, and we will also take care of your estate when you have passed on to be into the next world. I didn't stop there. I pursued my academic studies, and now I'm a PhD holder in business administration. So all of that put together, it adds up to me being able to assist my clients, those who are in business, like entrepreneurs, and those who are in employment, working, be it in public sector or in private sector. So in a nutshell, qualifications or studies, it's very important for one to be able to sharpen his skills in order to be able to serve his community well.
All right, thank you so much. You know, I just saw my mistake. I've been calling you Mr. Baloyi, honey, it's Dr. Baloyi. You end at THG. I'm sorry for that.
It's okay.
I'm really sorry.
I'm still human. I also learned that the doctors are still the same people that have been 2-3 years prior to them acquiring their PhDs.
I respect your big humble, but the doctor title, you worked for it and you deserve it. You deserve to be called Dr. Baloyi. So one thing I like about your story is that you had a vision and you never stopped going. Like you did everything that you could to get to the vision that you had. And there's something that is for a job, and when you couldn't find it, you created a job for yourself. And I think a lot of youth, especially in Africa, they're still stuck Motabenya looking for a job. They're looking for a job, and when they can't find it, they still continue looking for a job. Whereas you can start creating jobs for yourself or a job for yourself. So thank you for that one, Dr. Baloyi. And there's something that you didn't mention. You just touched on it, or you're a doctor in business administration. When I checked your profile, you're a doctor of Christian business administration. I just want to know, what is that? Christian business administration. Is that even a qualification? What is it?
You know, Happiness, you are not born for yourself. You are born for other people. But yes, even though you are yourself born for other people, it is important that when you find your feet, build your roots, make your roots deeper. So one of the things that I realized was when I got born again. And when I got born again, at first I thought where I am, it's actually not where God wants me to be. Until I found someone who once visited, into my life. I say visited because today I don't even know where it is. But I think it was there for a purpose in my life, because he showed me that no, what you are doing, it's very important. God loves businessmen as well. That is where you are planted. So looking at that and hearing that, I felt like, no, I need to learn this better. I need to understand this in a much better, not just better, but in a deeper way. Because among the first group of people that I should be saving are Christians. You are not born again just to be a flower in church. You are born again so that God can be able to refine you to be a better one that he has built in you. So yes, I thought, since I'm in business, it is necessary for one to study how God views business and how should business serve its community. And a better way for me to do that was to study about business in relation to the kingdom. Not necessarily in relation to the church, but in relation to the kingdom. My master's thesis was centered around effective business that should be able to serve the community better. How to raise a kingdom-based business enterprises. And I thought that's all I'm going to do. Now I understand how Christian businesses should be run. But it is when you study further where you realize that actually there are things you still don't understand. You know, There are things that you actually don't know. Hence, I decided that I'm going to pursue a doctoral studies. My doctoral studies was based on studying poverty and wealth. How do people get poor? And how do people get wealthy? You study the word of God, you realize that there is a whole lot of people who have walked with God and become very wealthy. I was intrigued in there to say, how does that happen? What is it that I'm missing? Why is it that I'm seeing a number or a lot of Christians who are still poor today? And I tried to study that, and I think I've got an answer to that. You know, it may not be the platform today to talk about that because we have specifics that we want to deal with today. But all, in a nutshell, is that we as Christians, well, Christians, it's some title or some a topic that was not created by God, not even by Jesus Christ himself. It is something that we find here on earth. So I will simply say, us as born again people, we stand a better chance to create wealth than the worldly people out there. I mean, you can name a whole lot of people in the Bible who have walked with God and studied the principles of God and went on to become much better people and become world changers.
Okay, Dr. Baloyi, let me just step in there before you go deep into the scriptures. Risa Lemoki, I know George has a question for you, but before he goes to that question, I like the fact that you are doing this whole qualification based focus on Christians. And one of my concerns, even about Africa, most Africans you'd expect or very traditionally aligned, but they're moving towards Christianity so much. We see a lot of churches around. But most churches, I'm sorry to say this, but most churches are misleading our people. We hear a lot about wealth in church, but how the pastors go about it, I don't think, but I'm not sure. You're going to help me with that one. Things like miracle money, is it really a thing? Because that's what most Christians are made to believe, or no, you are going to receive miracle money as long as you have the faith. Is it really true?
No, it is not. I will be straightforward in that. It's not. But to create wealth, it's following God's principles. But the reason we have fake churches, like you put it in fake money and everything, is because there's a real thing. It is only in, allow me to use, because that is the general word, allow me to say Christians. It is only Christianity that gets faked, if you haven't noticed. I've never had anyone faking Islam or faking Buddhism and those kind of things. So perhaps we should learn something as born again children of God, that the reason there is a fake today is because someone realized that this real thing can do good for people. Even if I'm not part of it, let me imitate it so that I can be able to do something for myself. So fake money, fake miracles, and all of that, it is simply trying to show that there is real money and there's a real miracle. If we talk of healing, for instance, because when we look at miracles, mainly we look at healing. There is real healing by the God of heaven. Hence, someone on earth will want to try and buy a wheelchair and put someone on wheelchair so that they can ask them to stand up. I mean, not so long ago, we have seen someone being asked to get up from a coffin.
From the dead.
That should be able to show us as the born again that where we are, it's real. That is why we need to learn and study further about the workings of God. Pastor Strike talks about the principles, of God, the precepts of God. In those things, that is what will make a difference in Africa. I mean, Africa, we are such a prayerful continent, yet we've got so little results that come from our prayers. So the principles of God, it's not just about the praying, but it is also about the application of the principles that God has taught from Genesis to Revelation. You can learn that, and you'll find that God is real and he do real things.
Thank you so much, Mr. Baloyi. We will definitely invite you when we have a Bible chat. We are going to host another series about Bible conversation. So I see you're a fit candidate for it. There's something that you also said that I like so much, and I'm going to use it a lot, probably abuse it. Or for every fake thing, there's a real thing. So the minute you want something that is fake, it means there's something real out there. So yeah, to the viewers and listeners out there, we are still talking about financial education. We have our Dr. Baloyi, who is the expert of the topic today, and we hope you are gonna learn and enjoy the show. For any questions regarding finances, make sure to drop them down in the comment section. And while at it, please share the live airing on WhatsApp and Facebook. Over to you, George.
Like Dr. Baloyi mentioned some key word there. He was speaking about wealth as part of our conversation. The keyword wealth, sometimes people get too confused to the word being rich, because being rich sometimes doesn't mean that you are wealthy, because you can have 1 million, and if you drop 10 cents from it, you no longer 1 million rich. So which brings back which bring back us to our main conversation today, about financial knowledge. And then based on that, Dr. Baloyi, I just want to ask you as to how do we differentiate between savings and investment, because that's something that gets to confuse us actually.
Okay, thank you very much, George. Feel free. You can call me Mr. Baloyi, you can call me Dr. Baloyi. Whatever comes first in your mind, don't feel bothered about it. We are not about titles, but we're about acts. We're about action, the works. I may be a doctor, but not deliver anything which is doctor material. So it's not about that. But the difference between the two, which is very important actually, and it's the first cornerstone that we should be able to grasp when we are on our path to create wealth. Now, saving, it's simply about putting money away. Putting money away, it may be for a specific goal that you want to achieve in the next month or in the next year, and so on. So saving, it's not about growing the savings or growing the 1,000 rand that you save, but saving is simply putting away. I want to try and use a simple language here so that we can be together, So when we save, it is simply to say, I earned my 10,000 rand today. And I'm aiming at going on holiday. We are still in February now. I'm aiming on going on holiday in December. So let me put 1,000 rand away on a monthly basis, so that come December, I've got 10,000 rand put aside, or 11,000 rand if we want to be exact. So that you are saving. You could be saving to say, if you are driving, for instance, you could be realizing that, oh, my tires are getting worn out. I think in the next 6 months, I will need to change my tires. Let me start putting some money away so that when 6 months come, I will have put an X amount that I will be able to go and withdraw and buy the tires. So in a nutshell, saving is putting money away, not necessarily for growth, but to just a disciplined way to be able to put money aside that you will use tomorrow. But the other most important reason for saving, it will be for putting money away for emergency. So saving is where we put money away for emergency. Each and every person, working or not working, as long as you have a source of income, you should have some kind of emergency fund. So emergency fund, we don't put it in an investment basket, but we put it in a savings basket. And that emergency fund should be somewhere at the region of 6 times. When we say Happiness or George or any person is financially healthy, we don't look at your investment. We don't look at your house, how much value it is. No, we simply look at your savings. We look at your emergency fund to say, do you have amount put aside which is around about six times your monthly income? So if your monthly income is about 10,000 Rand a month, you should be able to have about 60,000 Rand put aside as emergency fund. So that in the event of any emergency, you don't run to a bank or to a friend to borrow money to get out of that emergency. You simply go and borrow from yourself. That is savings. How is it different from investing? Now, investing is where you put money to grow. So saving, even if I've put 1,000 Rand, after 6 months, it is still 1,000 Rand, it is good, it is okay. But investing, when you put 1,000 Rand aside, after 6 months, we should be expecting some kind of growth. We generally call it interest. But because we are in the right platform today, that is not interest, because it is not in investing where you will necessarily call it interest. It could be dividends. It could be growth in any kind of a form, depending on your investment vehicle. So investing, that's where you put money away for future growth, for growth for future use. Let's say George has got a child. Let's call him Chris. He is 1 year old today. And you want to realize the fact that he was talking about upgrading his marks, which means he's studying. Now, George's son has to study someday. We are not sure whether NFSAS will be here tomorrow. At the rate at which we are going today in South Africa, there is a likelihood that we may not have NFSAS in the next 10 years or any other. So we will need to put money aside to be able to educate our children. That money that you are putting aside for a 2-year-old, which you are earmarking for his tertiary studies, which is in 16 years from now, you don't save it, you must invest it. So, which lead us to something else now. It means these two things are not exactly the same, although we tend to use them interchangeably. But that is because of lack of financial literacy. Now, we will use different methods. We call them vehicles. We will use different vehicles to be able to save and to be able to invest. I mean, Happiness, if you decide to go and buy a car. You look at the purpose on how you're going to use the car, not so? If you are a farmer and you want a vehicle to plow, you're not going to go and buy a Toyota Corolla to plow. You're going to buy a tractor. But if George is looking for a vehicle to be able to do business, just like you as the farmer, you're doing business, but his business is to move from one client to another, we'll probably need a Toyota Corolla and not a tractor. Now, with us, especially as the Black people, we don't comprehend the difference. Someone who wants to plow, go and buy a Toyota Corolla. Someone who wants to move from here to Pretoria to see a client, he buys a tractor. How long will it take you from here to Pretoria with a tractor, with the plowing equipment at its back, towing that plowing equipment? I'm trying to show the difference here, that because we use these words interchangeably, we also use these vehicles interchangeably. Someone goes to a bank and use a 32-day notice account, we call them fixed deposits, and say he is investing. That is the wrong method.
Mm.
And someone go and buy shares and say, I'm saving so that in 6 months' time, I want to replace my fridge. That's a wrong method. You have swapped these two. You see, so we must learn to use the right vehicle for saving and use the right vehicle for investing. The main difference here is the term. You also call it a period. So savings are an area where if I put the money now, I might need it next week. And I'm using next week literally, so next week. Or I might need it next month. Don't use investment products on things or on money that you might need next month or next year. Same applies. Don't use your notice deposit, like your fixed deposit, yellow bank, to invest for long-term growth, because you will not get good results out of that. So right product for the right purpose. I think that is the main difference, George, if we are to show the difference between saving and investing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I felt like when you were talking, you were calling me out, because one of my investments is through a fixed deposit account. So no,
Yeah.
I'm learning. I've also learned, because when I was counting my investments, I was like, yeah, the fixed account at Standard Bank, but I'm learning. You said something very, very, very profound. I think I'm already abusing the word profound, because everything that you're saying is just profound, is that you need to use the right vehicle for you need to know the right vehicle for the product that you're going
For the right goal.
Yes, yes. And what you were saying, I also need to know, because now it's like about investments. I thought I had an investment account, but I've just learned that it's not actually an investment account. Tell me, Dr. Waloi, what do I have to look out for when I'm getting an investment? What are the things that I should look out for? And do you have any recommendation about any investment companies or endeavors that one can go into?
Okay. Thank you very much. The company is the last thing we're going to look at. In other words, when you think of investing, don't think of the company. In fact, you don't even know which company to invest. Of course, it plays a very important role, but there are very important things that one needs to consider when considering investing. Just like when you're considering saving, like we said that you cannot use shares or buy bitcoins, for instance, or you know, all those famous things that we get told about today in order for you to save. But one of the things that we need to consider is, who are you? Who are you will tell will give an answer that will be one of the points to consider. Like I said, there are a number of things. So who are you is that very same thing. I say this because if George is investing on this particular platform and Happiness is a friend to George, chances are Happiness is going to say, oh, George, you are investing here. I also want to invest in that. But George and Happiness are not the same. So the first question is, who are you? You need to identify yourself. So in financial planning, which is the space where I operate among other trades that I do, is to first analyze the client. Who is this client? And secondly, is to determine the risk profile. So the risk that Happiness can take is different from the risk that George can take. For example, we have seen in the advent of COVID here in South Africa, when it was announced to us, our investment markets, our stock markets, and everything to do with money plunged. In other words, it went down. That is a risk. So a risk of you losing your money. How much risk can you take? In that time, in February last year, February, March, there are people who decided to withdraw their monies from their investments. Not because the investment was a bad one, but because they did not study their risk acumen or their risk appetite. Risk can be defined into two. The risk that you are willing to take to lose money, and the risk of not growing your money. This is not the same thing. So someone who is invested in a fixed deposit in a bank, of course, there's no risk of losing the money, but there is a risk of not growing the money. And eventually, in the long run, you will not grow your money. Because in a bank, you will get something like what? 6%? And inflation is about 5%. So if you are getting 6% on your investment, we must also deduct the tax. At the end of the day, you end up with a real return of 2%. So if inflation is 5%, you have actually lost 3% of your money on an annual basis.
Mm.
Of course, your bank statement will show the 6% growth. But SARS will also be looking for his share.
Mm.
So I mentioned the who are you? I mentioned the risk. The third part that we should be looking at is, for how long must I be invested? George's son might be 13 years, might be 3 years old today, which means if we are investing for education purposes, he still have about 18 years minus 3, giving us what? 15. He still has 15 years to stay in that investment. But Happiness' son might be 10 years old today and still want to do the same thing that George has done, which is to invest for the child's education. But Happiness only has what? 8 years. George had 13 years and you only have 8 years. So time is very important to consider when we are to determine the investment method or the investment strategy. Other things involve your the tax element of the investment. Different investments are taxed differently. So, but your tax bracket will determine exactly how much tax you're gonna pay, for instance. So these are the kind of things that we can easily do the calculation before you put your R1, and we show you that this is gonna be the implication, this is gonna be the implication. So your tax bracket will determine whether you will use unit trust, or whether you will use shares, or whether you will use endowments, and so on and so on. These are the different kind of investment vehicles. Okay. Other things that we can be considering could be issues related to your availability of other funds. So we mentioned earlier about emergency fund. So if you come to invest and you don't have an emergency fund, we are likely to use a method which, in the event of emergency, you should be able to make some kind of withdrawals. I mean, other investment vehicles charges you when you are to make a withdrawal on your own fund, and others don't. So we should be considering those type of things to say, are we able to have other sources of funds or availability of funds before we without touching our long-term investment? So time is important, risk is important, who are you as a person is important, even the source of income or the source of the funds to be invested, it's also very important. Your goals, that will be the last thing that I will mention. Your goals are important to determine which investment you're gonna use. Because if my goal is to buy a car cash in the next 4 years or in the next 5 years, I will use a different strategy from someone whose goal is to have a lump sum in 10 years, which is meant for providing him with income at retirement, for instance. So goal is also very important to consider among quite a number of other things that we could talk about.
Thank you, Dr. Baloyi.
Thank
You
you,
are
thank
still watching or listening to Baywaves. We are talking about everything finances, savings, investments, and loans. So please, please, please share the airing. I see the numbers are not adding up. Let's do the right algorithm. Please share the airing. As you're watching, make sure that you share it with a friend or Facebook or WhatsApp. Either way, it'll do good for us. And I have noted a lot of questions from the comment section, George. So I'd like Mr. Baloyi to just note the questions as you're asking them. And then I might eliminate some because I see some we are still going to talk about the things later on. So we don't have to ask them now. You may go on.
Yeah, I can see that there's a quite interesting questions from the comment section. And like you said, some of these we'll just get to move them for later on. And one question that we have from the comment section is from Rulani Baloyi, who says that at what age can a person start saving and investing? I'll direct the question to you, Dr. Baloyi.
Okay, just bring them in. We already know that Dr. Baloyi can be very lethal when speaking, so bring all the questions. He'll answer them all at once.
Okay, because I just figured already they're quite different, but then let me just go through them. And another question says that also, at what age should I start planning for retirement? As soon as I start working, or should I wait until I'm more financially stable in about 3 years? That's the second question. And then the last question is from Lituku Kenneth, which says that on that, when buying a car, it came to my realization that a lot of people don't know about this thing called balloon payment. Please tell us more about what it is.
Okay, so the balloon one, we are just going to leave it out for later I've noted
Yeah.
the two questions you were saying. One, at what age does one
Yeah.
start saving? The
And
second one,
investing,
at what age do they start planning for their retirement? And I see
yeah.
another one here, what investment products are available for students? So, Mr. Baloi, 2 minutes max to answer those three questions.
Okay, thank you. The first two are actually similar. When to start saving or investing, and when to start putting money aside for retirement. The best time to start saving is from your first paycheck. Money has got rules or laws. And one of those laws is that you start investing from day one of your earning of income. And we do have formulas as to how much exactly can you start saving and so on. In fact, you can save without a goal. So saving, it's not only when you have something to do. So if you've just started working, you haven't figured out what are your priorities in life and so on, you don't wait. So from day one, you will be benefiting from what we call compound interest. Compound interest is growth out of growth, or interest out of interest. And that is a time factor. So the longer you have time invested or saved, the better for you. So just like for retirement, you must plan for retirement. From the day one you start working, you must plan for retirement. Some of our uncles and parents who are not enjoying their retirement life today, it's because they did not plan. So when you don't plan, you are actually planning to fail. Either way, there is a plan. It's a plan to succeed or a plan to fail. So when you start earning your first salary, you must start putting money aside. And in fact, it becomes a lot cheaper. I just don't have the calculations with me here, but you might find that when you start from your day one of waking or from your first paycheck, you actually have lesser money to put in for your retirement from your pocket. So let's say you wanted to retire with 10 million rand, which will be able to provide you with 10,000 rand for the next 30 years of your retirement age. If you start putting money away from your first paycheck, let's say from the age of 23, 22, that's when normally, sometimes 21, even earlier, that's when normally people start working. You might find that you have put in 300,000 rand or 350,000 rand from your pocket for you to be able to have the 10 million at retirement age, average around 65 years old. Compared to someone who will say, I'm still young, let me not save anything now, I'm still far from retirement. I will start saving for retirement when I'm 40. You might find that for you to go home with 10 million, you need to have put 6 million from your pocket. So imagine putting 6 million from your pocket compared to someone who will only have put 300,000 rand from his pocket. And you go home with the same value at age 65. So it is very important that we bear in mind, especially as a young adult, that it is better for me, it is actually cheaper for me to put money away from the beginning compared to if I were to put money at a later stage. So when is it the best time to start? It's from your first paycheck. Either way, whether it is for investing or it's for retiring. One of the richest people that we know today. He started putting money away at the age of 12. And today we are counting him among the top 3 or the top 5 wealthiest people on earth. Not by what he has put in, but by how long he has been putting in.
Thank you, doctor. Thank you for that information. We have learned that planning is key. This is your sign to start saving. Do not wait for when you turn 30 or when you turn 40. As young as you are, you might be 20 or 16, just save whatever that you have. And then I heard you talk about tax and pension, which is those two are one of the benefits that we get as employee benefits. We have tax, we have pension fund, and what's the third one? Yeah, and UIF. So before we get to the tax and the pensions, I want to know about your UIF. I know I contributed every month, but what is it really? I just know that it's unemployment, what fund, but what is it in detail?
UIF, it's an abbreviation or an acronym for Unemployment Insurance Fund. So, Unemployment Insurance Fund, it is a fund which is put up by the government, whereby each and every employee or every person working and earning an income should contribute a small percentage towards it. So it is a pool, so to speak, so that in the event of you becoming unemployed, it's either whether you have been fired at work or you were retrenched at work or whatever caused you to be unemployed. Like we have seen during COVID, a lot of people were laid off when companies started scaling down. One of the greatest relief that the economy had during that time, in fact, not that time, even now, because we are still in the COVID season, was through the UIF, the Unemployment Insurance Fund. So when you are laid off at work for whatever reason, you are able to go to the Department of Labor and register yourself to say, I'm now unemployed. I used to contribute, I used to have deduction made from my pocket. Now, you qualified to be paid a particular rate. It will not be the same salary like you used to earn, but it will be something that will be at least able to carry you going forward. So UIF, you as the employee, you contribute, and your employer also contribute as a particular percentage. So it is a pool which is made by contribution from the employer and the employee towards this fund, which is run or managed by the government through the Department of Labor as the agency running that, for you to be able to get some kind of relief in the event of your unemployment. Now, it is not paid throughout the period of your unemployment, but a maximum of 6 months, you will be able to get some form of income. If you happen to get employment in the next 3 months after leaving or being laid off on this current employer, then the UIF will stop also. So it is for a minimum period of your unemployment up to a maximum of 6 months where you are unemployed.
Okay, so doctor, are you saying, are they gonna pay the same money I was earning as my salary, or they only pay a portion of it?
They pay a portion of it.
Oh, okay.
So they will use a particular formula to determine as to how much will you be earning during that time of your unemployment.
Okay.
Okay. I have a question, Dr. Baloyi. We're speaking about UIF, and this is one thing that is, for people who have stable jobs, if I can say that. So I just want to know that for people who have, inconsistent, if I should put it that way, inconsistent income, source of income, are there any kind of investments that are there for them to look out for? Because, solely people who don't have, stable jobs or stable incomes, they tend to think, investments are for people who have money or who have, stable jobs and stable income. So is there any kinds of investments that are out there for people who don't have, consistent income?
Yes, George, there's plenty of them. Again, that's a very important question, because when we understand these things, we'll be able to invest or save rightfully or in a right way. So there are investments vehicles that can be used by someone who don't have a regular income. Say, for instance, we have what we normally call the piece job. So, but when that money comes, it comes well. Maybe you have a contract, it goes for 3-6 months. After that time, you get paid handsomely well. And then you go for another 2 months without income. Now, products such as like unit trust, for instance, are quite good for this because they don't have a time frame. When you are investing, during that time when you have the income, you are able to put in your money. And in those months where you don't have income, you simply leave it at that. And then 6 months down the line, when the income starts flowing, you start from where you left. You will not have broken any rule. You will not have broken any contract. Another beauty about things like unit trust is that I may be working today earning 10,000, so I'm able to save 500 Rand in it. But when this piece job finishes after that 1 year contract, the next one which I'm getting, I'm earning 20,000. So I can afford to put 2,000 Rand. You simply inform the fund managers to say, increase my 500 Rand to 2,000. And then 6 months down the line, there's no income at all. You simply stop. We cancel the debit order a Monday. So it is a one flexible investment method which we should be aware of. And the charges are very low also. Besides the flexibility, charges are very low. If charges are low, also the returns are good.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. To our viewers, thank you for tuning in. You are still watching or listening to Bay Waves. We are currently talking about savings, loans, and investments. At this part, we are talking about employee benefits, pension, tax, and UIF. So if you do have any question regarding that, please drop it down in the comment section. And do not forget to share the live airing. We are trying to break this poverty chain together, and the more the people, the better. And our guru here, our financial guru, the expert in the house, Dr. Baloyi, is feeding us with knowledge. There's a saying that says, don't give a man a fish, teach them how to fish. I might not have said it the right way, but yes, it's that. And he's teaching us to fish, because you see a lot of people, they'll win millions. Renale, Shoya, I blew it. People received millions, but if you check them now, some they are go starting because they failed to manage. So once you manage, I think the wealth starts there. If you manage your 2 rands, then you're very capable to manage 200 million. So yes, please stay tuned. Make sure you engage. Make sure you share the airing. It's not too late to invite a friend, because this conversation is very important. So Dr. Baloyi, back to you. Regarding pension funds, there's something that I heard, I'm not sure, married in community of property, your partner is entitled, eligible to your pension funds. Is that true?
Yes, Happiness, it is true, but on condition. It depends on how you are married. So there are various ways that a pension fund could be accessed by your partner. It is one highly protected investment. Remember, a pension fund is also an investment. And here we also include retirement annuities. So your partner might claim in one of two ways or both. Either I could claim for maintenance in the event of divorce, depending on the balance of scale when we consider the income and everything. But especially when you are married in community of property. You know, when you are married in community of property, it's what is yours, it's half of it belonging to your partner. So in the event of divorce, for instance, we will be able to calculate. There is a formula that we use. We generally say 50-50, but it is not exactly 50-50 as we put it. That is just being generic. There's a formula that we use. It is likely to come to a lower percentage than the 50. It will hardly go beyond 50. So in that instance, a partner will be able to claim for maintenance, or he will be able to claim by virtue of being a spouse, a portion of your pension. So, but that should not deter us. There are great benefits that we can also see in retirement annuity. One of them, I'm trying to show that we must not necessarily be negative and consider a partner getting a share of my pension. The reason is a share, it's primarily because it's party to the contribution. You are contributing money from the family, from the house, not so. So in the event of splitting, whatever that is there must be split. But the benefit that we can get out of it, and I'm glad to be talking about this now. We are in February. We are about to end a financial year. So 28th of February, it's a tax year end. Now, it is a good or an opportune time to say, what can I do to alleviate my tax burden or to reduce my tax liability? So a retirement annuity is one of those things. So the contributions that you make into a retirement annuity, up to 27.5% of your taxable income, you can have them tax deductible, all of it back to your pocket. So in other words, it is the whole society paying for your retirement annuity. How nice is that?
Nice.
We also include your pension fund contributions as well. So pension fund contribution, provident fund contributions, retirement annuity contributions. You can claim your contribution that you have made into a fund. Let's say you have invested into, say, Alan Gray or Old Mutual or wherever. SARS give you that money back, but you need to claim it. So many people contribute, but they don't claim. So you need to, we give you a tax certificate every tax year end. You need to be able to get that tax certificate, attach it together with your tax returns, and SARS will do the rest.
Okay. Just before we jump to taxes, Dr. Boloy, I just want to ask this question before we move forward. What kind of investment recommendations can you recommend to someone who has, accumulated a lot of money? Happiness spoke something about people who are there at we blew it. Someone get money from REF, someone get money from Lotto, someone get money from from their parents, and then at the end of the day they just blow that money with useless things. So what is that kind of investment can you get to recommend for someone who has accumulated a lot of money, and they just trying to figure out as to which kind of investments they should go for? Because like from where we come from, we know to say you can build a spaza, you can do all those small businesses, but then I think there's more to the corporate world that people should get to seek opportunities for major investments. What can you recommend for us on that particular note?
It goes back to our earlier question, but I will just emphasize perhaps maybe 3 points in the points that I mentioned earlier. Number one, it will be the source of the funds. The source will tell us whether this money is taxable or not. It already leads us to the next thing, tax. We want to determine how. Oh, by the way, I must also mention I'm a tax professional. I'm a tax practitioner. So one of the things that we do is to help you minimize the tax liability that you can pay, or the tax liability that you will be liable for. So we make use of this very question that you have raised, George, to say, what is the source of the fund? Is it taxable from where it comes from, or it will be taxed when it is in your hands? But the third element will be that, how would you want this money to come to you? Do you want it on a monthly basis, or you will want to withdraw it as one lump sum every now and then? Now, from there, we should be able, we go back to the second element, tax. So all of these things boils down to tax, because if we are not careful, SARS will take 45% of whatever you are having. So it is, remember, the highest tax bracket is 45% that we have. So it is very important for us to structure it in a way that you get the tax efficient method of getting that money into your pocket for you to be able to buy grocery and so on and so on. So you can't have 10 million and withdraw 1 million per month, because you will pay 45%. So out of the 1 million, you will only go home with 550,000. Whereas if we were to use another method, we can even get you to pay 18%. So imagine 45% versus 18% of that money. So it is important. Some of these things, we simply take it into our own hands, and we are not careful to consult specialists or professionals who can help us. And you will not necessarily be paying a lot of money to the specialist versus the saving that he can make for you, should you not. So those people that we see in I Blew It and everything, and by the way, I talk about I Blew It almost every day with my clients, because it is a good example to show when we are not careful, this is where we're gonna end. One of the questions, it's about trust funds and the likes. We're gonna talk a little bit more about I Blew It in that aspect. But suffice to say for now that how you gonna receive that lump sum that you received from road accident fund, or from this claim, or from your parents, or it was a windfall from a tender that you got, whatever you got it from, consider the fact that SARS is waiting for you. So be wise to pay the lowest. Maybe to conclude in that question, George, let me say there are two things when we deal with tax. In a goal to pay lower or lesser tax, there is what we call tax evasion, and there's what we call tax avoidance. Both these methods, its goal is to pay as little tax as possible, if not avoiding tax at all. But the other one is legal and the other one is illegal. So tax evasion, it is an illegal way of paying less tax. And tax
Dr.
avoidance.
Let me interject because you're still going to talk about tax. It's part of the conversation. It's part of the program. I just want to tell George and our viewers out there, if in case you did not notice, this question came like 3 times. Investment products. We've been asking Ms. Dr. Baleo, okay, please recommend investment products. And every time I was looking for, okay, Sanla, more is equity or something like that, but he's just giving us information. Or don't give a man a fish, but teach them how to fish. So he has given us enough information to go use research. So now we know when we are researching what should we look at. We're talking about pension, and at some point, Nobelela, when you said something about February, I thought you were about to throw in a prophecy about marriage, because we're talking about we're talking about marriage and pension. So there's a new law that says pensions are now withdrawable. You can withdraw a certain amount of or a certain percentage of your pensions. Is that true? And if it is it advisable?
They've always been withdrawable, happiness, but with conditions and with great penalties as well, I may add. When you exit your pension fund, you are allowed to take 1/3 of it and do whatever you want to do with it. You are also actually allowed to take all of it, but you must be prepared to share it with SARS. So the drawback of it is that when you withdraw your pension, it is SARS who go home happy than yourself. Why is that so? They penalize you to eat old people's money at a young age. Pension is old people money. So if you are simply changing your job today and you are only 30 and you want to withdraw your pension, obviously SARS is aware that happiness is going to come back to me when she's 60 and say, I want SASSA grant. So that penalty is trying to indirectly put money away for you so that when you come at the age of 60, you must be able to give you the 300 rand. It is not advisable for one to withdraw his pension. Like I say, it's old people's money. You are cursing yourself if you eat old people's money at a young age. You know, so what is happening today, the tax rules with pension fund is transforming. The new legislation that is coming on board now, it is talking about forcing one to what we call preservation funds. So the law says that you cannot take, if you had, say, 1 million rand in your pension fund, and you are changing jobs now, you are moving from one company to another. In the olden days, you can take your 1 million with little tax that you pay and you go home. But now the law says you are bound to save at least 66% of that money. So you can only access 1/3 of it. The last part on the tax element of it is that of that 1/3 that you're going to withdraw, you're going to pay a hefty tax penalty for you to be able to go home with that little money that you could be having.
Thank you, Dr. Baloyi. I see George has disappeared to the comment section. So please, guys, throw in questions about text, because now we're going to talk about text. Call your brothers, your friends. But return. Some come back with a lot of money and some have to pay a lot of money. George, do you have anything from the comment section before I proceed to text?
For now, we don't have anything, Happiness. I think we can continue and speak about text. But then I just want to say to our audience, bring those questions in. We do have Dr. Baloyi. He will assist you with all the questions that you have. Thank you.
Okay, you know what, George? I feel like we are encouraging people to come do this, whereas it's free consultation. If you go to Dr. Wale himself, you're gonna pay millions. Dr. Wale tells them that you charge a lot for consultation. So this is like a platform for free consultations.
We actually don't charge a lot compared to the gain. We don't charge a lot compared to the gain that you'll be having. In fact, your gains are massively huge compared to the few rents that we're going to be charging you for the time and the expertise that we'll be giving you. So we should not be scared to consult. You know, it's all to your good, all to your benefit.
What I'm telling my special audience, these are my people. This is my family. I'm saying save some rents. Yes, you're going to need the services, but now save some rents and use this opportunity. Free consultation brought to you by Bayways. And so, Dr. Baloyi, you know, it was very stressful for me when I had to do my tax returns for the first time because I didn't even get education about it. They just told me, hey, you have to do your returns. Even if nobody told me, I just saw my colleagues being busy by the writing tax returns. I'm like, what are you guys doing? They're like, tax returns, it's time to do your tax returns. I'm like, but okay, what do I do? But now I just go to the website and I had to navigate my way around the whole website. So can you just tell us like the things that we need to know before returning our taxes? You also mentioned something about tax evasion and tax avoidance. Can you give us education about that?
Okay. I was saying that tax evasion, you can be locked up in jail for that. It is reducing your tax liability in an illegal way. Let me give an example. You are working, earning a salary, but you were blessed to afford a flat somewhere which you are not living in, so you are renting it out. And you don't tell SARS that you are getting rental income. That is tax evasion. It can be very simple, you know. So people could be found guilty of tax evasion in a very innocent way. Good thing about investment, especially in the banks, is that the bank don't wait for you to tell SARS that I earned an interest of so much. No, they will simply send an IT-12 to SARS without your knowledge. IT-12, it's a statement which is generated by anyone who has paid you some money to say, we have paid Happiness so much. And it doesn't matter whether that money was paid into your bank account or it is still in the bank. We talk of accrual. It accrued to you. So the fact that you had a right, you can withdraw it. It means it was paid to you. So when you don't disclose other sources of income to SARS, that is tax evasion. Now, tax avoidance, it is the legal way of applying tax law to reduce your tax liability. For example, when you have a retirement annuity, you simply show SARS and say, I've been paying 1,000 a month to my retirement annuity, so it is 12,000 for the year. SARS will refund you probably that 12,000. I have got a medical aid. I'm paying so much per month. We have a formula that we use to calculate the tax rebate on a medical aid. SARS will refund you that. I've got an own vehicle that I'm using for work. In tax law, we say for business. I'm not using for business because people will say, but I don't have a business, so what? Even when you are employed by your employer and you are using your vehicle to go see clients or to do whatever errands that your employer has employed you for, put down your trip meters. What do you call that? The word has gone off my mind. You know, but be able to show that I've traveled logbook. That's the word I needed. Put down your logbook. Logbook is where you record down your traveling kilometers and the spending that you have made in the vehicle. SARS will refund you that. I've got a cell phone which I use to call clients. SARS will refund you that. So tax is not such an evil thing, and SARS is not a monster. They just want your cooperation. Now, for you to cooperate with SARS, you need to understand the tax law. That is where I come in. That is where the tax professionals come in to say, for this you can claim, for this you can claim, for this you can claim. This is not allowed. Now we talk of the element of working from home. Have you declared to SARS that you have a portion of your house that you are using for business? Because that becomes your office now. You can claim that from SARS just by working from home. So if there's one good thing COVID has brought is that people can have a better rebate from SARS because they are working from home. Of course, there are conditions on each and everything that I've mentioned here now. There are conditions on how to claim it. So in a nutshell, tax avoidance is when you don't disclose your things with SARS with an aim of paying less tax. Tax avoidance is applying the tax law to be able to pay less tax. All in all, it's about paying less tax. That is what we can mention with regard to SARS and so on. But you need to have your tax returns made on an annual basis. As long as you're working and earning an income, you must submit your tax returns. For those who are self-employed, it is also very important that even if you did not earn an income, you must return your returns, a nil return. So those are the kind of things that we need to bear in mind and we need to be careful about. So I know I'm not telling you guys to be tax experts or anything. Consult. Some of these consultations can come for free. Like as you have put happiness, Baywaves gives us this this information for free.
Consultation.
Benefits to our listeners and our viewers.
Thank you, Dr. Baloyi. George has disappeared to the comment section. I think they have learned or no, we are offering them a lot. But before I can recognize George, Dr. Baloyi, please tell me, I just need clarity on this one. If you have a tax number, are you supposed to do tax returns or you have to be employed for you to do tax returns? Because I know a lot of people do get a tax number. It's like a requirement for a lot of things. So by virtually, I got my tax number while I was still in varsity. So do I have to do anything or I'm only going to do something when I get something in my pockets as well?
The beauty with our SARS today is that these things have been simplified. There is a threshold where below this level of income, you don't have to submit many other things. But let me round it up and say, on an annual basis, talk to SARS and say, this has been my income for the year. So the fact that you have a tax reference or a tax number, it means SARS is aware of your existence. And the moment you don't tell him that you are still alive, year in, year out, he's gonna start investigating you. You know, always when you are investigated, there will always be one little fishy thing out there, you know. So to avoid all of that, make sure that you submit your returns online. You simply go to SARS e-filing. If you really don't have an income, it means your return is not complicated. It is mainly no, 0, and submit. Immediately, few minutes or few seconds after submitting, you have your response to say, we have received your file. And it is well.
All right.
So
thank you, Dr.
let us
Vanani.
avoid avoiding SARS. So avoid avoiding SARS.
All right, let us avoid avoiding SARS. Ke a bona Prudence a re SARS ke sera. Ka nnete ke sera. He's not our friend. And I just learned through this conversation that the bank is also not our friend because it sells us out to SARS. I have noted Dodge from the comment section. I just want to remind the viewers that we are talking about savings, loans, and investments. So anything that you need to know, please drop it down in the comment section. We are 15 minutes to closing the comment section for live commenting or live responses. So make sure that you use this time effectively. Over to you, George.
Yeah, I can see that our audience are using this free consultation to a good use. I can see the questions are coming in. We have a comment from Tarolo Are. This is really informative, of which is really informative. Thank you, Tarolo, for that comment. And then we also have a question from Kenneth, and the question reads as follows. He says that let's say you are a healthcare provider and you are registered with Board of Healthcare Funders. You see clients and medical aids pay money into your account for providing services. Now, how do we go about in paying tax in that regard? I don't know if the question is clear, or should I go through it again, Dr. Wally?
I think it's clear. We can try to respond on it. What is tax? The tax that we pay tax from the income that we receive. Now, on the income that we receive, there are certain exemptions and exclusions, and there are rebates also. Now, expenses that you incur in generating the income, it's always deducted. So let's say you have been receiving the income from your patients, as the question has come. Now, I've been charging, say, 500 Rand consultation fee as a medical practitioner, but I've got admin staff that I'm paying. I've got the rent that I'm paying. I've got all those other things that I am paying for me to be able to generate that 500 Rand. All those expenses can be deducted from the 500 Rand. So let's say the 500 Rand in a year, it becomes, for argument's sake, for simplicity of figures, it becomes 1 million. But my admin staff, maybe I've got 2 admin staff there. In total, I've paid them 400,000. I've paid a rent of 300,000. It means I've got expenses of 700,000. So I will not be paying tax on the 1 million that I've received, but I'll be paying tax on the 300,000, which is the profit from my trade. So you are running a trade. Now, trade has got expenses that it incurs. So we will deduct all those expenses. And you've got a choice depending on the level of the turnover as to what method you're going to use. Are you going to use a turnover method or you're going to use the profit method? Either way, you will need to deduct all those expenses that you have incurred. So the cost that you paid in order to generate that 1 million.
Okay. I think you answered it loud and clear. And if our audience didn't understand, I think they'll just drop the question down below. I just want to ask a question, Dr. Baloyi, to say, you mentioned something about someone being blessed with a flat. They should report to SARS to say, I'm renting a flat and this is how much I'm getting. Does it depend on your settlement as to which you should report to SARS or not? Because I know for sure there's a lot of people at rural settlements like why they have a lot of rooms and they're making a lot of money than someone who has a flat in the central business district. Like, does it depend on the type of settlement, or even those who are in the rural settlements who have back rooms, do they also have to report to SARS to say, this is what I'm making?
So we report to SARS on the income generated for the year or for the month. There are those who pay on a month tax on a monthly basis. There are those who pay on a quarterly basis, and there are those who pay on an annual basis. So it depends on the level of income. But all in all is that we pay tax on the income. It doesn't matter whether you owe that particular flat or not. Say you bought it a bond, but to put in the bond element around it is that, let's say you are paying a bond installment of 5,000 rand, but out of that 5,000 rand, 3,000 rand is interest on that particular bond. The interest is part of your business expenses. So it can be deducted from the turnover or the income or the rental income that you are getting from that particular flat. So in simple terms is that the bond doesn't matter when we determine your turnover. We simply look as to how much did your tenants pay you. But we take a step further and say, out of me generating this turnover, there was a bond installment, and out of that bond installment, there is interest. So the interest portion of the bond is the one that can be deducted in determining your taxable income.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Bala. Over to you, Happiness.
Thank you, Dr. Baloyi. Thank you, George. I think we are wrapping up, closing this tax, UIF, and pension item. If there's anything from the comment section, then we'll move on to the next item, which I was excited about, the Royalty Trust Funds and Wills. So when I got to varsity in a bus, I'm stressed or coffee rest. Mercedes going home, going to rest with the Mercedes, and I'm like, oh, they're like, what a trust fund. I'm like, you know what? I didn't have that, but I know I wanted for my kids. Dr. Baloyi, how does one set up a trust fund? Actually, what is it before I jump into it? Because I have absolutely no idea what a trust fund is. I just know that it's the life that I want for my kids in the future. So what is it and how does one set it up?
Okay, thank you, Happiness. Quite important as well. We talk, one of our goals at Matimela Investment is to help you create wealth but most importantly, to help you protect it. So creating wealth and protecting wealth are different things. The trust fund comes into the protection. Now, here is Happiness. She's working, sacrificing to invest for her children, acquire this and that, and eventually she passes on. Now, the assets that Happiness owns today must go to her children, not so? But the moment you say, flat yako bendo, it must go to my firstborn. Ela yako Madiba Park, it must go to my daughter. And they receive it in their hands. They also stand a good chance to sell it off just 3 months after it was transferred into their hands, because there is no control. Now, to avoid that, what we see in I Blew It, for example, it's beneficiaries who are receiving huge lump sums, and they go and squander it in lavish life and all sorts of things which you will not have loved your children to spend on. Now, how do you avoid that? You write a will. In a will, you create a trust. In that trust, you give parameters of how to use it, how to access it, and when should the trust terminate. Who does that? It's the owner of the funds. It's the parent. These rules are to govern who? Is to govern the beneficiary. So you, as Happiness, you create this trust so that upon your death, isn't it when you're alive, you're still controlling everything? Upon your death, your children should not be given a lump sums of million rand each one of them, and the next thing you see them on the next life, and you ask, how did you get here? They say, the money you left us with. Fast forwarded for us to join you sooner. So, you put that money into a trust. Each child will be created a trust for himself. And then you will mention that this trust is to pay for your education and is to pay for your maintenance, is to do ABC and all those things that you want that trust to do. And then out of the million, they won't get the whole lump sum and it gets them offside all of a sudden. You will say, or we will determine in that trust to say, this million, for the upkeep of this child, he needs 3,000 rand a month or 5,000 rand a month or whatever amount that is determinable. That is what he will get up until he reaches a particular age that you think that he will be matured at this age. I mean, imagine giving your estate or your wealth to your child who is only 18. At 18, that's when he's supposed to start with varsity or around there, not so? Do you think he will still go to varsity?
I know.
Slightly no. Because as children believe that I study so that I can get money.
100%.
If he gets money before he studies, then there's no reason to study.
What's the need? What's the need?
You know, he will only last for 18 months with that money. And he didn't study. And there's no more money to study. But here's another nice element with the trust funds, is that, isn't it, if your children are still minor when you die, under 18 years and so on, you're gonna leave maybe your brother or your sister or your uncle or whatever in good terms, we'll call him or her a guardian. You're gonna leave your children with a guardian. Now, how would you leave the 2 million rand with a guardian? And the next thing, they run away with the 2 million and your children become street kids. Now, you charge your sister with the responsibility of looking after your child, but you remove the responsibility of managing the money. You leave it with the trustees.
Okay.
Because if you leave the money with your sister, say she's not married now, and the next day she gets married and the money is with her, and she marries in community of property, chances are the husband is gonna be 50% owner of that money. And in the event of her death, likelihood is that the husband and her children are gonna be beneficiaries of that money. And within a nick of a time, it has moved away for the benefit of your children. Because legally speaking, if it is in her hands or in her account, it is her money. No one is going to argue and say, yeah, but it was money meant for happiness children. It just happened to be in her account. We're not going to look at that when we do administration of the estate. We look as to what is in her hands.
All right,
so
thank you.
That is how a trust operates in a nutshell. It is a very important thing. Besides the trust that are created via a will, we can create a trust while you are still alive now, and you make the rules as to how that money should be managed and everything.
All right.
That's where the trust fund comes from.
Okay, so I heard you mention something about should you die and your children are minors, you leave the estate authority in somebody's name, the guardian. So in the case where the guardian also passes on, I'm assuming you might get one or two, but in the case both of them pass on, what happens?
Okay, so in that instance, obviously we also become wiser and say, we don't think of one person. We think of different people. So there is the first option and there's an alternative. Yes, it may happen that they both pass away. In that instance, we look into the family to say, who can stand in the place of these two deceased nominated or appointed guardians? Then we're gonna find someone who will be responsible. We are happy to can have anyone there. What is the job of the guardian? It will be to make sure that electricity is bought, grocery it's bought, and all of that. But we are happy to can consider anyone. The family can come and sit with the executor of the estate and consult with the executor to say, among you as the family, who do you consider to be good enough to can take this responsibility?
Thank you. George, don't you have any questions about trust funds? Are my kids gonna be the ones leaving stuff alone in the future?
Actually, I think whatever he touched base, actually he didn't touch base. I think he went in depth of having to explain, and I think whatever that I had in mind, it was covered in that. So I just want to encourage our audience from the comment section to, Konje, we passed that time, but then it's okay. They can always they can just leave them down and yeah. But then other than that, he did really go in depth, and I think I understood. I also didn't know much with regard to trust fund, but then right now I'm enlightened about this whole thing, and thanks to this free consultation.
Look, we are offering to you mahala. You will never get free consultations anyway. Anyway, before we play our closing game, Dr. Baloyi, there is something that you said. Well, it kind of confuses me. How do I differentiate a trust fund and a will? Because right now we were talking about leaving estates for my kids when I'm dead. I did hear you when you said you can still give a trust fund while you're alive, but if you're dead, does it still count as a trust fund, or now it's a will? Or a trust fund is actually a product that you get from a bank or something?
So a trust fund, you don't have to go to a bank to create it. You go to people who've got expertise in managing trust. I'm a fiduciary specialist, for example. So we are authorized and permitted by law to can be able to create a trust for you. So, like I said, there are two kinds of trusts. There is one that you can create while you're alive, but the one that you create upon death, it is the one that needs a will. So we want to differentiate between a trust and a will. A trust is a product of a will. So you must have a will in order to create a trust. Otherwise, upon death, if you did not create one while you were still alive, there will never be one upon death. But speaking of death, happiness, I hope you are okay with that, realizing that we are coming to close. There is the issue of policies,
Okay.
life covers, funeral covers, those type of things. How is it related to trust?
Dr.
It's
Baloyi,
important. Yes, madam.
I might have to interject in that one because I see the time that we're left with might not allow us to talk about life covers and funeral covers, but we will, if you're available, invite you again so that we can finish off the program that we have. So right now, we just want to talk more about the will. I don't know. Also, I heard that debts can be inherited in the will. Is that true?
It's a yes and no. In fact, that's where life covers come in. I wanted to relate the life covers in relation to the wills and the trusts. Because you might say that, but I don't have a company, I don't have a property like a house and things like that I can inherit my children. So what will I be able to use my trust, or how can I create the trust? So the answer to that is that you can just take out a life cover of some amount, and then you determine that the proceeds of that life cover be the one to be used to create the trust. So you don't need to have a lump sum, or you need to have saved R1 million somewhere else and so on. You can take out a life cover and create a trust. The second part of your question relates to the debts. Yes, one of the things that we as Africans, we are good at is to pass on poverty to our children. What do I mean by that? It is when I die without having provided for my debts to be paid off upon death. Say, for example, I've got a bond, yeah, 500,000. I've got a car that I still owe 200,000. It means in total, I've got debt of what? 700,000. But the house that I own, it's only worth 600,000. So even if the house gets sold, I will still be owing on my estate. So what will happen is that whoever is going to inherit that house, they will have to take over and pay off the bond. That is where now we can talk about passing on a debt, which is unwise, very unwise, especially if we can calculate how much you spend on deponents, and how much, I don't know if they are open now, but simply put, how much we spend on entertainment and just lavish life. If we can take a portion of that money and take out a life cover. Now, how much is the life cover? It must be amounting enough to pay off my debts. So don't pass on debt to your children or to the beneficiaries of your estate, because you will in effect be passing on poverty. Let us learn to take out life covers that will be enough to pay off the debt, so that when you pass on your estate, it is debt free.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Baloyi. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but I promise you next week we'll be talking about life covers and funeral covers. We've had an inquiry about car loans, finances. We are going to cover that, credit cards and loans. We are going to be talking about that next week. So right now we're going to play a quick game. I also want our audience and listeners who have access to the comment section to participate in this game. So this game is called Would You Rather. So I'm going to give you two options and you choose one and then give a reason. You're supposed to respond within 30 seconds. If you go over 30 seconds, I'm going to rudely interject. So I'm going to start with you, George. Would you rather buy a car cash or through financing?
I'd rather buy cash, because if I'm to take finance, it means I'll have to pay interest, of which is more money. So I'd rather buy cash.
Thank you. Dr. Baloyi?
It depends. Either way, it's right. You know, if I take the 100,000 and I buy the car cash, and I still have some other few hundreds of thousands in my account, then it is wise to buy the car cash. But if I'm only have 100,000 and I need the car that I need is 100,000, I cannot take 100,000 and buy the car cash and remain cashless. I will rather go to the bank, get the bank to finance me, and pay 2,000 rand every month, and have the 100,000 rand snatched there for any emergencies. The car may break down and so on and so on. At least I know that if I fall down, I'll be able to wake up and do the next thing.
Thank you. Second question. So should we go through the financing route, meaning if you get your car financed, would you rather take a balloon or not, George?
I'll take a pass. I'll take a pass on that question, because there was a question around balloon payment, of which I also needed enlightenment on, and I really don't know much about balloon payment, so I'll take a pass.
Dr. Baloyi, please don't explain what a balloon is. Just answer yes or no, then we proceed.
I will not go for a balloon.
Yes, why?
It means if the value of the car is 100,000 and I go and buy it on a balloon, get 30,000. Actually, what it means is that I was supposed to have been buying a car at 70,000. I don't afford a 100,000 car. Okay. So balloon simply means that you are going for wheels that you don't afford.
All right. George, the third question. Thank you for that, Doctor. The third question, would you rather take a loan or a credit card?
Oh, a tricky one. I think I'd rather take credit. I think I'd rather take credit, because with loans, what I've realized is that when you borrow from the bank, the interest is much higher. But then when you give to the bank and invest, the interest rates are lower. So I think I'd rather take credit, and I'd like to assume, I'm not sure, I'd like to assume what the interest as to compare that to that of loan, it's a little less. So
Okay,
I'd
thank
rather
you,
take
George.
credit than loan.
Dr. Baloyi?
I think George got it right. I agree with him. I will look at the interest rate that I'm being charged on either one, and I will
They're
go
the
for the
same.
one with the lower interest rate.
In the case where both of them, it's the same interest.
Then I will look at the conditions, T's and C's.
Dr. Baloyi is being too technical now. Okay, the last one. Would you rather get a personal loan to build a house or get it through finances? This is a bond. Financing is a bond. George, personal loan to build or financing? Build or buy?
Okay,
Sorry.
I'll use the answer that Dr. Baloyi used earlier on to say, if I have something left, then I'd rather take a loan, right? But I don't think it's applicable in this case. I don't think it's
No, it's
applicable.
not.
Okay.
You're running
Yeah,
out
it's
of
not.
time.
It's totally not. Okay. I'd compare the interest. I'll compare the interest. Then I'll pick one.
Now you're becoming Dr. Baloyi. George, come back. Dr. Baloyi, yes.
I'll go for the bond because home loans are among the lowest interest rates charged in South Africa today.
All right. Thank you so much. We've reached the end of the show. It was nice having you, Dr. Baloyi. I really enjoyed this show. It was very informative. Lena, I'm coming out of this show as a financial guru. If you need advice, get in touch with me. So, yeah, Dr. Baloyi, what are your last words, and how can the viewers or listeners get in touch with you, maybe to get the services that you offer?
Thank you, Happiness, and thanks to Bayways, thanks to George, and the background people in it. We really appreciate. You can reach us. Our office is situated here at number 88 Hans van Rensburg. So we are here in Polokwane. So we are in town, but they can also check us on social media. Your Facebook, we are there. On Twitter, we are there. Facebook is Chriswell Baloyi. On Twitter, it's Chriswell_B. I don't mind to also give out my cell phone numbers, 0722 683475, so that they can also reach us on WhatsApp as well. But we are here to assist. People should just come ready with meaningful questions.
Thank you, Dr. Baloyi. George, your last words, please. Give me points. What are the three things that you have learned today? Don't try to explain them.
Okay. I just want to say that I've learned much with regard to trust funds. I've learned much in terms of interest, and also in terms of investment. I think I got to be enlightened than I was, and I just really want to thank Dr. Baloyi for being here with us and engaging with us on this particular matters. I think I have really consumed a lot than what I had, and yeah, thanks for this beautiful show.
Yeah,
really guru today.
Yes, so what I've learned today is that first, identify the vision. If you have a vision, research, plan, and then act. Those are the key things that I've learned in today's show. This is a financial series that we're going to have for the entire February. So if you have anything that is relating to finances, please drop it down in the comment section, and we promise you we will discuss it on air. Be sure to tune in next week at 7 p.m. Through our YouTube channel or Facebook page. We are Bold Moves Radio. We are here every Tuesday. Please tell your friends to tell their friends to tell their family that they don't want to miss this one. This was very informative. From Baywaves and Bold Moves Radio, good night. We love you so much.
This is Bold Moves Radio. Streaming 24/7. 24/7.
Say Africa, say Africa, say Africa.
Boldly breaking barriers and